Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast, UPSB podcast. Today we will start out with an interview with David Weis, the inventor of the background, and later we will move on to talk a bit about the World Cup. With me today is also Cam.
Hey guys.
So I guess we could just get started with the background of David and all.
Okay, so David, why don't, well, first of all, welcome and glad to have you here with us, but why don't you talk a little bit about your background on how did you start pen spinning and maybe a little bit about your site, that type of stuff?
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't want to talk a whole lot about the history because it's going to make me sound really old. When I started in college, there was no World Wide Web yet. There was the internet, but no website. So it was really hard to know if there was many people out there involved in it back in '91, '92. But I noticed that if I spun a pen or a pencil during class, it kind of helped me think and helped me focus on the class better, so my mind wouldn't wander. So I think I've got about the same answer as everybody else. Why did you start pen spinning? Well, because I was bored in class. But eventually, the internet got going and started looking around for some websites and found Hideyoko Kondeki's site. And that site was pretty cool. It showed an outline of all the various basic tricks, but there was no combining of tricks and nothing that really showed how to flow tricks together. So I actually emailed Hideyoko back in the day, and we talked back and forth via email for a while. And it turns out he was actually a junior high science teacher, and so he didn't mind at all, obviously, if people spun pencils in his class. But we talked about that for a while, that he actually would spin a pen up in his class as a teacher. I thought that was pretty funny. And anyway, I started getting my own website going and wanted to show how to do continuous tricks and how to combine tricks. So that was kind of my inspiration when I talked to Hideyoko, and he didn't really have any combinations, and he didn't really know what I was talking about when I tried to talk about continually spinning. So that's what kind of inspired me to put my own website out there and let people see really, how much more you can do with pen spinning and see that you can combine tricks and keep the pen moving continuously. So I got my website going, and it ran till about, when did I bring it down, Cam? Do you remember? Was it about like late '97 or something like that?
I think it must have been '97 or '96, because I remember I remember seeing Hideaki's site and then your site, and I think around '97 or '98, then your site was down. So that's probably around that time.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think it was like mid '97. I had the pencil spinning domain. It was pencilspinning.com, and I had quite a few tricks up there, and I ended up letting the domain expire, and I ended up getting an email from Cam. He said, "Hey, where's your website? It hasn't been up for a couple of months. Really liked it, really enjoyed your site." And I said, "Well, I didn't even save off the content." And he said, "Well, I happen to save the whole thing off, so if you want to put it back up." And I said, "Yeah, that's cool." So I put the whole site back up, and Cam and I stayed in contact since then. And, we talked about what tricks we were both working on, and I think we kind of inspired each other to kind of keep pushing the envelope of pen spinning. And then I continually updated my site and added things like the continuous back and a half and other tricks like that. So that's kind of the history of the website. And when I put the background continuous and some of the other continuous tricks on there.
Right. Yeah. I know that I learned a lot of tricks from your site, and it was lucky that I actually saved all your content. I don't usually save like all the stuff on the web, but in your case, all the videos were like Word files, so that was cool. Also, I noticed like some people nowadays, and I talk, they mention that we have like similar what they call old school style. How do you feel about being called like old school?
Well, the funny thing about that is I think if you looked at like the one interview that I have a link for it from my profile page in UPSB, That Pen Spinning 3000 website did an interview with me back in, I don't remember, 2004. And I mentioned in there how I was working on a new version of the back-around where I spun it at the fingertips. And I noticed that version was, it was a faster version of the back-around, but I didn't like the way it minimized the hand movement. So, it is true, there definitely are different styles, but I can actually switch any time. I can go to the fingertips and then drop back down by the hand, and I think that's what most people are talking about when they say old school. They're talking about spinning down by the base of the fingers, where it seems to be a little bit slower sometimes, but there's a lot more hand movement, and I really like that. I like the style involved, the flair of moving the hand more, and I'm actually extending some of those tricks. I'm working on hand around variations and reverse hand arounds and things like that, where the pen leaves the hand at the base of the fingers, like I guess what they would call the old school background, and you actually wrap it around the hand, and then you can do actually like hand around harmonics back and forth around the hand, things like that. Basically continuing to try to push that envelope with I guess what they call old school right now.
All right. Cool. Let's see. Sfsr, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, about you basically mostly spin pencils, from what we've seen. Is there any specific reason behind that, or are they better somehow than pens, or what do you think?
Well, I guess for me it's just they're more accessible, and as far as the balance and the weight goes, it seems to me to be less of a puzzle to get a perfectly balanced pencil that has the exact amount of weight that you want. All you do is you wrap tape around the end that doesn't have the eraser until the pencil's balanced, and then you can add more tape on both ends until you get the weight that you want. So there's no like complex equation of pieces that you need to put together and pieces breaking off like you deal with pens. You can get exactly the weight and the balance that you want, and it's cheap and it's easy, and I tend to lose my pencils constantly, so I'd feel pretty bad if I had an expensive pen that I spent a lot of time modding and then I lost it, behind the register at Wendy's or something when I was spinning during ordering my food. Like I just lose pens out the window of my car, ordering food at the, all day I'm spinning a pencil, so I just lose them all day, and I'll just have like 3 or 4 extra in my pocket, and it's no big deal. But I wouldn't want to do that with $20 pens, so that's really my reasoning behind it. And I don't know. I think I've heard a lot of people say it's kind of like old school pencil spinning versus pen spinning. But I think about a third of those, the guys on the Japanese site, I think about a third of those guys, Sunshine and those guys, they all spin pencils. So, I don't think it's old versus new. It's just what you prefer.
But wouldn't putting a lot of tape on the ends of the pencil make it look kind of bad compared to how it would without? And I don't even know how much weight can you add with tape without.
Yeah, that's true. It looks kind of like kind of ghetto, but I don't really mind. You can use duct tape. Duct tape's pretty heavy, and you can get it to feel just like the weight of any pen. I'm going to go ahead and admit to the world that I actually have bought a pen spinning pen here. I'm holding it in my hand right now. I've got one of the Spins Access pens, and it's pretty cool. I actually did a mod on it. I went to the hardware store and bought these metal bolts to put in the end of it to get rid of those little plastic bolts, because as it was quite a lot lighter than the pencils that I usually spin, so I got rid of those plastic bolts that go in the end and put metal ones in place of it, and it's pretty cool now. So I spin this pen, and I also spin pencils mostly still.
The pencil that I've seen you spin is not a regular pencil. It's fatter than the other ones, other than what I see as a regular pencil. What pencil is it?
No, man, it's just a regular number 2 pencil, but you can wrap tape around the whole diameter of the pencil, so you can actually get the diameter to be what you want it to be in the center, and then wider at the ends if you want to also. What's that? Oh, I said Sunshine instead of Sunrise. I meant Sunrise, the Japanese spinner Sunrise with the crazy 15x thumb spins. That stuff's crazy. Anyway, yeah, a lot of those guys use pencils, and I think I used a denim pencil before. It's like recycled out of jean material. Those are out of Canada, and those are a little bit heavier, and I think the diameter of those are a little bit bigger than your standard pencil also.
David, you mentioned that one of the reasons you lose a lot of, like you use pencils is because you tend to lose them a lot. So are you suggesting that we should have a GPS system on our pens?
Yeah, at least maybe an RFID tracking tag. That'd be pretty handy. So you could like just press a button on your computer and you'd see where all your pens are in your house. I think that'd be pretty handy. I could definitely use that.
It's true with the losing pens. I mean, there's nothing worse than to run out with new Dr. KT and just not find it anymore after half a day. You get really scared.
Yeah, it's like with my lifestyle now, I do real estate investing, and I'm in my car all the time. So I would guess that my situation's a little bit different than most people. I'd say I get about 80% of my pencil spinning in my car now, and literally I've lost pencils out the window. I'll try to do a pass from my right hand to my left hand, like a Sfsr error pass, and then I'll miss my catch and it'll go flying out the window. And it's no big deal, you know. I'll grab the next one and keep spinning. But man, if that was a $20 pen every time, that would really suck.
David, we got a quick question from Nate is cool. What pencil did you use for shooting the Book of Cool DVD? Yeah,
that one actually was an old worn-out pencil that I had spun for a while, and then I lost it under my couch. I think it was from NASA, and there's like maybe a little bit of tape on the one end to balance out the eraser, but I pretty much spun that pencil that was basically like a standard pencil. But yeah, I think I remember that was like an old pencil that I was spinning for a few years, and then I lost it, and then I found it again, so I figured I'd go ahead and use it for the video, even though it looked really wrecked.
All right. So it wasn't like a specially bought pencil for that particular DVD or anything like that, right?
No, man, that was really the point of using that pencil, was just to show kids, you know, you don't need to go spend, you know, $10 on something special. That was just, you know, a worn-out pencil. The only thing I do when I look for a pencil is I make sure that it's the solid wood kind. It's not the compressed fibrous wood, because those are always lighter. I want the heavier solid wood kind where they press the two pieces of wood around the lead. And then, you know, you can wrap some tape around the ends, and you can get that to be exactly the weight and the balance that you want, and, you know, totally cheap. I think I pretty much covered that enough anyway. So yeah, pencils are good to spin.
Well, to get back to the Book of Cool, how did they get in contact with you about it? Like, did you send them a mail or something, or?
I think all they did is they went out there on the web and started searching around and looking for who was active in the pen spinning community, and they found Cam, they found me, and Cam was busy, and he passed it off to me. So it was pretty much their searching and through Cam that I got that deal. And yeah, back then, I mean, there was, before YouTube, there wasn't a whole lot of activity on the other sites. It was the Cam site and my site, and not too many others had that much activity. So it wouldn't have been too hard for him to narrow it down to Cam and I, and then Cam was busy and passed it off to me. So that's pretty much how that went on. It was kind of like a favor. I think Cam said, "Hey, get a hold of David. He's going to be available then." So they got a hold of me.
Sorry, I remember that. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I was busy with, but yeah. How was that experience? Like, just shooting? Were you like kind of nervous, like shooting your first DVD, and how was that like?
Yeah, it was kind of weird. You know, I didn't know what their expectations were. I didn't want to have somebody see me drop a pen. You know, it's like no one else had ever really see me spinning in person, and I didn't want them to see me dropping a pen. So all the tricks I did were like tricks I had completely on lock, you know, 100%. And they'd say, "Show us your hardest combination," you know. So I'd do a sonic rise to continuous back-arounds, and then, you know, quick thumb snap and a couple other tricks or something like that. But I was staying away from things like things where I was doing like hard tricks that I might miss a catch or something like that for that. And at one point, my hand was a little shaky. They had like 3 cameras on me, and I did feel pretty nervous. So I was like, "Hey, can you guys go and get me some beer to calm me down?" So they actually sent one of their camera crew guys over to get me some beer, and I drank a few beers, and that calmed me down. So, you know, that always helps with the pen spinning, I think. So that's just some good advice out there for anybody out there, any of the younger spinners. Drinking helps.
Anyway, I thought you looked really cool and chilled out in that video. I think I saw a part of it on YouTube. So I didn't think you looked nervous at all. Anyway, I think I saw a site up with the planning for the Book of Cool 2. Have you any plans of participating again, or do you think any pen spinner could be in it again, or has it been enough in the last one?
Yeah, I heard there's plans to do a second one, and yeah, I would hope that if they do a second one, they get somebody else just to keep. There's so many great pencil spinners; it'd be a waste to have me do it twice, I think. And you know, I think there's a lot of people that would show the world how it's evolved better than I would. And I would hope that if they do get a hold of me, I'll pass it along. I'll pass it along to one of the newer pencil spinners, I think, that have evolved the activity better. I think I'd pass it to one of them. But yeah, there's been talk about a second one. There was even talk about a promotional tour. So I don't know how all that's going right now. I haven't heard from them in about 6 months. So if I do hear anything, I'll let you guys know through UPSB.
Okay. Well, David, we have some user questions here. There are a ton of them. So let me ask some of the more interesting, or the ones that stand out a little bit. A lot of us know that you are also into BMX, which I don't know how to describe it better, but it's like the doing tricks with a bike, right? How long have you been doing that, and how has that influenced your pencil spinning at all?
Yeah, I've actually been riding BMX since, real seriously, I guess, since like 4th grade. So like, a really long time, since I'm old and stuff now. But yeah, I think flatland BMX, doing tricks on the flat ground, kind of the ideas that you see there kind of have influenced some of my ideas with pen spinning in the early on, when everything was push the pencil with your finger to get it to spin, or tap it with your finger to get it to spin. And I wanted to kind of, you guys can probably hear that I dropped my pen on my laptop where the speaker is. I'll stop doing that. Anyway, I wanted to try to get it to flow smoother, so I was coming up with tricks where you actually continued the spin without actually pressing against it. Kind of like when you ride a ramp with a bike, you pump the transition at the bottom, and that creates speed rather than actually pedaling the bike. It's the same concept. So for the background, it's basically the tilting of the hand that creates the speed of the pen. And so yeah, I kind of pushed some of those ideas from that activity into pen spinning, and thought about it when I was trying to figure out how to keep the pen continually spinning in the reverse direction.
Right. Sorry, you mentioned that stuff before to me, but since I've never done BMX, can't really relate to. But I'm sure that it has affected your style somehow, because it's really unique compared to most of other pen spinners. I'm sorry, Sfsr wanted to say something?
If you were done with this topic, I could just move on, or is that okay?
Yes, that's fine with me, David.
Yeah, that's cool. We can move on to something else.
I was just thinking about your thoughts on how pen spinning is today, like how the popularity of pen mods has increased, and how pen mods go in and out of popularity, the competitive nature of pen spinning. I mean, we're having a World Cup, and there are battles all around. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, I think it's pretty awesome. I'm completely blown away. I didn't really pay attention for a few years, and then Cam gave me a call in September, and we started talking about the videos out on YouTube, and I was telling Cam about some of the new tricks. He goes, "What are you working on now?" And I was like, "Oh, you remember that mid-back trick that I did in my Pencil Ninja site?" I said, "I'm doing that continuous and doing more hand-around stuff." And he tells me, "Oh, other people are doing that. Other people are doing that." And I was like, "Really?" And I got on YouTube, and, it was kind of shocking. It's like the pencil spinning world had caught up to me, and I think a lot of ways has passed me, and I was just really surprised to see all the evolution that had taken place. And man, I just think it's awesome to see that it's a whole community, a whole worldwide community, and the competition's pushing each other, because I think that really is the whole objective here, is to continue to push the activity and come up with more and more difficult tricks that you see them and you're just like, man, that doesn't even look possible. And I've got a couple of subscriptions on YouTube to a couple of the guys I like to watch, and a few people have found my YouTube site, and I hopefully will start posting some of my newer stuff out there eventually.
Is there any specific pen spinner who you can mention that has caught your attention?
Man, if I give a name out, then everybody's going to think, why didn't he say my name? Why didn't he say my name? But no, I like about 8 or 10 guys I'll watch pretty consistently. One guy, Dongza, D-O-N-G-Z-A, I watch his new stuff. He puts a lot of new stuff out, and it seems like I'll be thinking about working on something, and it looks like he'll come out with it about the same time. He does a hand around where he does it with a pinky catch, and that was like a trick I was working on, and then I saw he put a video out with it, so that was kind of funny. And he does a lot of air tricks in the middle of his spins and things like that I like. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that I watch out there that are definitely pushing the sport, the activity, whatever you want to call it.
We have a question from the listeners. What is your YouTube account? Is it just David Weis?
It's www.davidweis.com, all spelled out. And if you don't remember how to spell that, you can go to my profile page on UPSB, and you can go to it from there. There's a link from there.
I'll just post it in the chat. Everyone will probably find it there.
What was the? There are so many questions. We're sorry if we don't get to some of them to all the people listening in. But let's see. One of the, I don't know if you want to get into this or not, because this is like a controversial topic. But I'm sorry, I forgot who it was. Somebody asked your view on the pen versus a stick dilemma. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like whether a pen should be able to write, or if it's like something that looks like a pen but doesn't write? What do you think? If it's okay to spin that? Do you have any thoughts on that, David?
Well, I think as soon as the length starts to get longer than a normal pencil or a normal pen, I think that gets a little bit outside of the scope of what we're doing, because you've got other activities, batons and devil sticks and things like that really starts to go into. And if you want to be a pen or a pencil spinner, then I think that's what you should spin. That being said, whether or not it actually writes, I mean, that's somewhat arbitrary, really. I mean, my pencils that I spin are usually unsharpened to keep the balance, and a lot of pens run out of ink and they don't write anymore, and they're still pens. So I think that is somewhat arbitrary, but I think as soon as the length gets to be outside of the scope of a pen or a pencil, then it just looks kind of like, somebody's spinning something that's not really a pen, and it doesn't really fit the scope anymore. And I've seen people mention that on YouTube sites. I think I saw a site where somebody did a back and a half times like 95, and they had a pen that was obviously longer than normal and very weighted, and right away all the comments were related to that. So I think we recognize that as a community as an issue for sure.
Right. Yeah, I don't wanna start talking about that on my views, because then this interview will never end. But I agree with you that there's definitely a certain limit that pens start getting just way too long, and then we could start going into the whole baton twirling or staff spinning, all that. So why don't we move on to a different topic? Oh, a lot of people want to know is what happened to your thumb? Like some people are not aware, so why don't you give us a run through on what happened to your thumb and how is it right now?
Yeah, so I was downhill mountain biking, and I caught a rock wrong and went over the bars. Like, the funny thing about this is mountain biking is what I do for exercise, just like because it's kind of like a safer, easier activity than ramp riding. And so I end up breaking my thumb really bad just mountain bike riding. So I just fell. Like, I went over the bars, and I'd done 100 times. I didn't think anything of it, but when I hit the ground, my thumb caught the corner of a rock just wrong, and it broke the bone in half right underneath the nail, and the nail kind of popped off, and it ended up getting infected and turned into a real bad problem because the bone got infected. And I worked with the doctors for like 4 months on antibiotics, IVs hooked up to my arm everywhere I went every day, trying to fight off this infection to save the thumb, because immediately when this thing happened, the doctors were like, oh man, that thumb's got to go, it's a mess. and so I put up a fight to try to keep as much of it as I could. And what ended up happening, February 14th was the third operation. They were like, we have to take off the second half of the bone here. So the end bone of my thumb, the second half of it is gone, and the joint got infected also. And the infection, it ate like all the cartilage out of my joint, and the bone fused together. So it's like I have like one section of thumb that's long now, and it's like 3/4 length, I guess. I've got a picture of it. I'll put it up on UPSB and up on my site so you guys can see what it looks like. And yeah, it kind of makes it difficult to do some of the things that I was like doing before because I can't bend the end of my thumb anymore. So like the half tap tricks that I would do using that hinging motion, that back hinging motion, I can't do that. And forward continuous 1.5 thumb spins, I can't do that as well anymore. So it's kind of forced me to work on other directions of pen spinning, which I kind of was already doing anyways. I've really been focusing on a lot of pass air tricks, where I do an air trick and catch with the other hand, spin with that hand, and pass it back. And I've been doing a lot of hand around stuff where I'm working with like doing a shadow and then twisting my hand up and catching it with the underside of my hand to create like a reverse hand around, and then immediately doing like a hand charge to a regular hand around, and things like that don't use the thumb so much, because all of my earlier tricks were definitely very thumb intensive, and clearly they're not going to be that way anymore.
Right, so I'm guessing we should start a fund to get you a bionic thumb or something like that, maybe?
Yeah, I'm actually talking to a couple of doctors. There's artificial joints, and the doctors I've talked to said there's never been an artificial joint put in that location. They only put them in the knuckles and the next joint up on the fingers. So I'm trying to get a doctor to be willing to do that, but they're all worried about the fact that the bone was infected. Once a bone's been infected, doctors, they just don't want to touch it. They want to stay away from it. But yeah, I'm willing to take some risks and try something new, absolutely. I did the same thing with my knee when I blew my left knee out on a backflip back in '99. I ended up going to Canada and having a doctor from France fly over and put synthetic ligaments in my knee to replace my PCL, and that's basically illegal material in the United States. It's not FDA approved, so you know, I'm totally not against flying to another country and getting a bionic thumb put on.
Okay, that was kind of a joke, but it's interesting to know there is actually that possibility. But I think we all agreed that, you know, it's better to to worry about your safety and health first than try to do something crazy just so you can, you know, do the tricks that you used to do. I'm sure you can also come up with other tricks even without the full use of your thumb.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a good thing that it happened, but on the other hand, I'm definitely not an advocate for safety, and so I definitely wouldn't tell anybody out there to be careful and don't do things where you might get injured, because that would be just completely hypocritical of me. So yeah, I'm bummed about the thumb thing, but at the same time, I'm not going to tell you guys to go be careful or something.
We could take some more questions. Someone, Orange Soda, wants to know if you plan on to do some tutorials on tricks you're working on.
Yeah, I do plan on getting some new footage out there on YouTube. I'm super busy, but I've got a couple things that I definitely want to get on video and get out there, and I'll do a little walkthrough of how to do them. Absolutely. It's probably gonna be something reverse hand around related or hand around harmonic related, something like that. You know, because man, everything else I was working on, when I looked around YouTube, other people are already doing it. So if I put anything out there, it's going to be something that's unique that you guys haven't already seen yet. So I'll definitely try to get something out here pretty soon. Oh,
I'm looking forward to it. I really liked the video you made of Neo back to scissor spin, even though you had the faulty thumb. Another question here is, what do you think about all the non-pen spinners who kind of hate on pen spinning?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much to be expected. I remember when I first started riding BMX back in high school, and, you know, there'd be a lot of haters, you know, making fun, beeping their horns at you, and like, hey, you're too big to be riding that little kid's bike or whatever. But now, you know, the X Games and everything else, now it's accepted in society as cool. So, you know, what's accepted by society always changes. So, you know, you just need to do what you want to do to have fun and worry about everything else later, because society's view on activities always changes, and I'm sure it's going to change with pen spinning also.